You are listening to the Enormocast.
Is your relationship with your climbing shoes starting to feel like just a series of Netflix nights with carry-out? Is the spark gone? Are the dreamy days of wistfully wondering if your shoes miss you when you can't be romping in the hills together faded away? Well, let the Sportiva theory put some big bang back in your life. Extreme sensitivity combined with high dynamism allows the theory to have unprecedented pedidexterity and reactivity on holds. Pedidexterity, dynamism, reactivity. Isn't that just what you've been secretly longing for? Do you really want to spend your sun-drenched days and climbing gym nights with a board last and confining laces? Or with an aggressive and ultra-sensitive slipper that lets you really feel those holds you so lovingly caress every chance you get? Look, you and your old shoes can still be friends. Even meet up once in a while for a 5'9" audible lay or two. But the Sportiva theory is going to fulfill your needs in a way that those old shoes just never could. So if you've lost that loving feeling, then reignite the passion with the Theory climbing shoe from Sportiva. Go to Sportiva.com or your favorite local shop to test the theory.
Well, girls and boys, the sun's coming up later and later and the darkness is upon us. But cowpokes like us know that when the going gets cold and dark, we still get going with a double shot and a dawn patrol. That's right, up before the rooster's pecking and the cows are mooing, and out the door for those perfect turns or perfect conditions. And though most of us aren't galloping into the office anymore with hands chalky and our ski pants swishing, doesn't mean that your dawn patrol humble brag isn't just as effective when you're 5 minutes late to that Zoom call. Sorry, folks, you casually say, I'm just not myself if I don't get up at 3 in the morning and go send some sick shit while y'all are sleeping. Black Diamond is here to support your morning mania with equipment for the dawn patrol. Headlamps to light up the pre-dawn hours, the perfect layering systems to peel as you heat up and the sun finally does come up. Ski gear for the punch-drunk 4 a.m. skiers, climbing gear for the unrested and off-route climbers, and even bouldering pads, because let's face it, you're gonna numb out and dry fire. So wake up, buckaroos, and though caffeine may seem like all you need, let Black Diamond supply all the gear you need to get up and get down on your next dawn patrol. Black Diamond is a proud sponsor of the Enormocast.
Listen, where are you playing in town? Are you playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
big
big place, that side of town. That's a big
nice
place. You sold it out. 20,000 seats.
You really should.
The hell are you doing? I couldn't sleep. I'm checking the ropes. There was a frayed end on your rope, and I'm cutting it out.
Bad weather. No, later, anytime.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And the fine folks at La Sportiva. And don't forget our charter sponsor, Bonfire Coffee. Go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Enorma at checkout for a discount on great coffee and to support the Enormocast.
And now back to the show. So welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Kalous. This is episode 212.5 of the Enormocast. The now fourth annual, I believe, Enormocast Taps edition. Joining me, as usual, my friends and frequent Enormocast guests, Steve Dilk and Andrew Bisharat. Welcome to Taps, buddies.
Great to be here, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. First of all, I haven't actually talked to either one of you guys since the last Taps edition. Since a year ago.
That's true.
Where we all just left, went our separate ways, and we haven't
winds.
spoken at all since then, right?
So we can all debrief on what's happened in climbing in the last year. with a fresh start.
Yeah, that's the way it works, you guys. We all go, we never speak, and then we come back together for this show. Tonight's show is, once again, things that are going by the wayside in climbing, or maybe should go by the wayside in climbing, using the TAPS theme, the fallen soldier theme. Many trends, many things, many ideas, and even today some people who have died in the last year, as well as trends that are just seem to be on the vine, or maybe they're coming back. That's what the discussion will
zombies.
be. Yeah, the zombies. Some things that we'd like to see go away, which was the nature of last year's TAPS, I think was pretty heavy on the canceling of stuff. Do you remember last year's TAPS, you guys? January?
No, it seems like so long ago.
It was.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's been a long year.
Yeah, totally. And this was all before anything.
Yeah.
I think we recorded it on the 6th of January, so we didn't even have the whispers yet of the virus.
Right.
It was just 6 days after the new year. Climbing was just a frickin' freight train barreling towards the Olympics.
Now, Dilk, were you in Asia before that or after?
No,
After.
Yeah,
we have patient zero on the show here.
You went to Vietnam or something, right?
In February.
Japan.
Through China, flew through China.
Yes, I did.
The China.
Through the China to evade the wall.
Right.
Yeah. Just got back.
So tell us about your experience. Actually, you guys have like an interaction that.
Yeah, that's right. Divergent memories.
Yeah,
but it's probably just. I mean, Bisharat's a journalist, so he remembers things and writes them down. I don't, and just blabber
or fabricates things.
Yeah, that's right.
Cloth.
That's right.
The memory's getting worse and worse. I'll be honest. As the days go on.
You're good at writing things down, so that's always what.
That's a
good habit.
He wins.
Yeah,
he wins the memory hole when
turns
he
it into a
down.
fact.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, a quick trip over to Asia turned into a nightmare when we left. The CDC was. We consulted that and a couple of doctors, and it was mellow. I think the United States had a handful of cases throughout the country, but mostly in the PNW. And so we did what our government told us to do, basically, and just said, travel, be free, and all is well. Don't wear a mask. You'll be fine. Just wash your hands. Stay away from anyone coughing. And within like 2 weeks, I think we were in Hanoi. It was like we had to get home as fast as humanly possible because Trump was going to shut down the border from all of Asia, basically.
Right.
So we had to change everything around, get home. And, what we observed was just we were in really tightly packed, dense cities, and it wasn't like carnage by any means at all. But everyone basically was very courteous and wore masks and washed their hands and tried to stay away from people if they could.
You're talking about over there.
Over there in Asia, yeah, exactly. Right. In America, we immediately got corralled, literally like from 12 to 20 different flights, corralled into like a 2-door corridor, completely jammed with everyone, and just ramrodded through like a completely porous, open entryway into the country. When we went to just go back, when we went through Japan, they were already heat scanning everyone. Mm-hmm. And if anyone was coughing or anything, you were immediately taken aside and like separated and
never heard from again.
Yeah, basically never heard from again in a very polite way. It's all very quiet.
It's very quiet.
Japan.
Polite
It is. So it was like really, there is a disparity with like how quickly Asian countries react to a SARS virus and how like organized they are compared to like our shit show, which it was.
Right.
So
yeah, well, the divergent memory story that you just referenced, just to spell that out for the listeners. We were at Hayden Kennedy's birthday party. I don't know if you call it that or not, but of course it's
a memorial
birthday. Yeah.
But fun.
Yeah, it's an annual tradition. We get together and celebrate his birthday. Yeah, so I was talking to you on that birthday occasion about COVID and SARS and stuff, and you, in your memory, you were like, "Oh, dude, this is going to be the big one. Like, get ready, buckle in.
Everyone's coming into the country."
But in my memory of our conversation, you were like, "Dude, it's no big deal. Like, I saw people like cutting holes in their masks and smoking cigarettes, and like,
well, that's true.
And it's all
true.
like
That's
part of like the communist Chinese like propaganda regime.
It's coming at us."
And so I came away from that like, oh, dude, Dilk knows what's up. Like, he was just in Asia. I got into an argument with my father like that week because he was like, I think this pandemic is really going to be a big deal. And I was like, no, my friend was just in Vietnam. He said it was no big deal. And
for the record, though, I don't think it has been that big of a deal in Vietnam. I don't know how they did it, but They've
It's
shut it
because they
down.
just get on board.
They do.
They get on
Yeah,
board.
and they take it seriously. Yeah. No, for sure.
There's another
Life's harder there in general.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I think that's really it. It's like we're just too pampered. We're too far away from, the polio and the yellow fevers
Right,
and
malaria.
all that, and malaria and dysentery and all these things. And not to say that Vietnam is some like low level country, but it's a tropical type country, so they're dealing with diseases all the time.
Well, in Asia
had part of the deal. Plus, they've had the SARS thing.
They've had the SARS epidemic before, and so you could imagine, like, if in 10 years, God forbid, we have another SARS outbreak in the U.S., people are going to be more quick to wear masks and stuff.
Right.
I mean, I will at first.
No, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So
yeah. Obviously, I'll never say
we've learned our lesson.
Yeah.
That's after we've been broken into 4 countries, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That'll be fine, though. I'm happy in this one where we live here in Colorado. Yeah, so we've also got a sponsor this year, again. Our friends at Brooklyn Distillery in Brooklyn, New York, has sent us several bottles of 77 whiskey. And we're drinking tonight we're drinking a local rye and corn variety from Brooklyn Distilleries. You can get online. You can order it straight from them. Oh, that's nice.
Sound guy's back.
However, I'm going to come clean in that this is actually take number 2 of the Taps edition, and maybe some of the first one will come to light, but
hopefully not.
We got pretty deep into a bottle of 77 whiskey, the rye, which was
the green label.
Yeah, and also quite strong bottle of whiskey, actually. And some of that will come to light, and I'm sure right away you're going to be like, oh, man, we really want to hear that, but you really don't.
There was a fallen soldier or two.
And there was a fallen soldier or two. And actually, one of the first taps mentions this year is the death of Steve Dilk's whiskey drinking habits.
It's done, Brad. Your product's too good. I took it too deep.
Yeah.
It's over.
And though Steve loves whiskey.
Too much.
Maybe too much.
Yeah.
He says he's swearing it off for life.
That's right.
Life. And you're
turning
34,
point.
right?
35.
Okay, you're 35 years old?
That's right.
So you got a ways to go in life.
That's right.
So
I think he'll come around.
I think he'll come around.
Yeah,
too.
it's true.
I mean, how many times have you sworn
It's a
off,
New Year's
like-
resolution, or a revolution, shall I say. I've had that one in the pocket for 2 days.
The circumstances were tough. We had this like delicious whiskey. Our capital had just been stormed.
Yeah,
it
was
January
January 6th.
It was
we were all ready to just unleash a little bit. So I think we took it a little too far.
Yeah.
The episode went off the rails, and now we're
Really
gonna try.
quickly.
Yeah,
Really,
actually.
yeah.
So it's not like the end got a little wonky, because last year it got a little wonky at the end. I just left it all in there. And again, like, you're gonna be like, well, I want to hear it, Caloose, and it's just like, when your buddy's just like super shit faced, and it's like 2:30 in the morning, and you're just like over it, and you want him to shut the fuck up, or you're gonna like smother him with a pillow. That's where it got to. So no, you don't.
But it was like
it's not
9:38.
entertaining. Yeah, but it was like.
It's like 9:40 p.m.
Yeah, if even. Yeah. So anyway, so it's not like you're missing out on the first part of it. Maybe we'll leak some tracks.
There
from
you
that.
go. Yeah.
But about minute 45, I think it's already like down in the dregs, and
Right out of the gate.
after the hour mark, then things were really bad.
Yeah.
And it's uncertain whether this is going to go any better.
Yeah. So anyway, here you go. This is
Cheers.
take number 3. No. Anyway, so off to the Taps edition.
They're going to have to send more bottles of whiskey
I know.
next year.
Yes.
We
Oh, yeah,
have
right.
to keep doing more takes.
No, we're good. Actually, and once again, thank you to Brooklyn Distillery and Brad over there, that's a fan of the show. Sent me some bottles just out of appreciation a few years ago, and then we started to have this become our official sponsor. No money is there's no transactional specie passing hands. So it's just
fine
about
whiskey.
giving us a few bottles of whiskey in return for some love on the Enormocast. So
he's
drink
actually
up.
lost a customer.
Yeah.
With Dilk.
His product's too good.
Yeah,
I've literally tapped out.
You've been thinking these up for days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm clear now, Chris.
You're the next. What are the levels? You're another Thetan further down the.
Exactly.
Is that it? Like a Thedon or what's the fucking
Scientology?
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I wish I did. It is like a Thetan, though.
Yeah. That's the things that live in you. I think that are inhabiting your body. The Thetans,
the inner god or whatever.
But there's rings or like leveled up. You leveled up. You're right behind Tom Cruise.
Outstanding place to be.
That's all it took was like 3/4 of a bottle of 77 rye.
I just achieved enlightenment. So thanks again, Brad.
Anyway, Andrew and I are drinking it tonight, so it's only one guy's tapped out. Okay, so let's get into it. 2020 actually was a pretty brutal year for a lot of climbing trends and things. Just like it was a brutal year for everyone. And so yeah, starting in March when this thing started to hit the fan, when old Dilk here was whistling past the graveyard, just spraying sunshine on everybody,
high-fiving everybody, hugging.
Some things started to go south, and one of the first things that was taken down this year, and all these things, hopefully many of them will be resurrected, but the Olympics. We were in January 6th last year. We were a freight train just like barreling towards the Olympics. There were climbing gyms opening like 2 a day. There was more climbing gyms opening than podcasts starting, which is amazing. That switched in March when everybody fucking started a podcast. Like, oh, I'm stuck at home. Literally, the Yeti blue microphone, the like standard, sold out for months.
The trends of the two.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's inverse. Yeah.
On the graph.
Well, actually, the real trend inverse was hangboard videos. Those went up as the gyms closed. But yeah, the Olympics got taken out, which apparently is going to resurrect. But Andrew and I got some information about that today, even talking to
Natalie Berry
over in of UKC Climbing. What her predictions were about the Olympics are a little shaky. I just assumed, based on the rosy picture around the vaccine, that we'd be Olympicing this August, but that's starting to fall apart a little bit.
Well, let's not taps out the 2021 Olympics just yet. But yeah, the 2020 Olympics got kiboshed, and it was a bummer. You just have to imagine how frustrating that is for the athletes to have put on hold all of their life and basically just train in the gym for the year preceding that, to have a stupid pandemic just ruin their plans. Like I just feel terrible for them, and even the fact that they're just delaying it a year. Obviously this is uncertain still, but that still sucks too, because that's like 2 years of your life that you just have to be in the zone thinking about trying to win.
Yeah, and it's pretty unprecedented where you have to even by March, certainly by March, you had a plan, like here's how my training's going to go, and this is going to be rest and then peak, and then you were already all set up in this ritual, and then it just, what do you now do for an uncertain whole year?
Right.
Do you stop? Do you just keep repeating cycles? And then I think the mental game of trying to stay stoked, even now when nobody's coming to you and saying like, oh yeah, 100% we're doing it in August. Right. Everybody's like, yeah, we're hoping. There may be crowds there. There may not. We may be online, all these sorts of things. And just like keeping the mental psych up will be really interesting to see who, kind of lasts from who was chosen. Because I think it's all the qualifiers are going to remain the same, right? I would guess.
Yeah, they're all.
Everybody's
in
same, that was in, as long as they don't injure themselves, which is a whole nother game, right?
Which is crazy too, if you think about the fact that like you qualified for some of these people 3 years ago from when the event's going to be. Like,
this is a lifetime in that kind of athletic like achievement.
Yeah, so the intel we got from our friend Natalie today was that maybe there might not be a crowd,
Right.
which would be a real, I don't know. I imagine that's a bummer if you're a comp climber and you feed off the crowd's energy and stuff. Like we've seen that in major league sporting events where they are putting literal cardboard cutouts of goofy people in like, you know, Yankees hats
Right,
and stadiums
right.
and stuff. So
It's interesting though. My favorite guys over at the Hang Up and Listen podcast, at least one of those guys liked the NBA season better without
really?
the crowds. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like you just concentrated on the basketball and the coverage very much more concentrated on just the basketball. And there wasn't all that, you know, music and noise and stuff. But the contrast to that is our friend Chris Parker, who went to the World Cup a couple years ago now in Austria, just talked about how, you know, he went there like skeptical about whether he was going to enjoy himself, not being like that interested in indoor climbing, but he had an amazing time because of that part of it.
Right.
So yeah, it should be interesting. But you know, obviously the Olympics will be resurrected, you know, whether
think
they're a zombie or not.
Yeah, that torch can't go out.
No.
Do you think
The corporate torch. That's right. Torch, sponsored by Nike. Torch.
I was gonna
The Adidas torch.
I was gonna say, do you think that we could get cardboard cutouts of ourselves?
Oh my God.
At the like in the media booth.
Either way, we got to do that.
Yeah.
Somebody who's going to the Olympics next year, you got to get in touch and bring our cardboard cutouts.
Be incredible.
Just with like a run out or a Enormocast / run out press badge.
Totally, yeah. Just like be flat Chris and flat Andrew. Flat Dilk.
Very flat.
I mean, you're not exactly that thick to begin with,
No.
to be honest.
Flat Dilk.
All right. Somebody take care of us next year. People email me and are like, you should do the commentating. I'm like, no, that's not my game. The spontaneous commentation's not my commentary is not my game. Although
But Flat Caloose
Flat
could do
Caloose
it.
yeah, he'd be probably more interesting than the normal or Enormocast. Well, one thing with the Olympics, like more of a trend thing that I wanted to talk about with more of a dying trend is this idea that you can be a great outdoor climber and a great indoor climber, which is, at least in the United States, has been the tradition. I think a little less so in a lot of ways in Europe. And maybe that's why we sort of lag a little bit, is because our athletes want to do both. But, you know, we've got like Sharma was one of our great competitors and also a great outdoor climber. Tommy Caldwell in his day was a great competitor. But simultaneously, not people who've gone on to be outdoor climbers, but simultaneously, I mean, there's not that many left, it seems like. And that was interesting to me when I started paying attention to indoor climbing. It's like, I was like, who are all these people? And everybody's like, no, that guy's this and that guy's that, and we love him. And especially the Japanese. I mean, they've cornered the market on like not climbing outdoors,
Right.
so to speak. So,
Right.
I mean, Andra's still in the mix, but again, going to Natalie's intel, she didn't have him on top anymore.
Well, it's interesting because there was this like idea that had any of these competition climbers who we all understand to be the strongest, you know, dark horses in the world, you know, if they were to just apply themselves to real rock, they would be able to do exceptional things that we've never seen. But for the fact that they have to train all the time because they're just psyched on the comp scene. And so that was kind of this like trope, or, you know, just like this cliche to say that, but it's kind of been maybe proven false in a way in 2020, because you have to imagine that, you know, when they got the news that the Olympics are not going to be around for another year, you know, that's like time to just be like, okay, maybe it's time to go outside and like do some 9A pluses. And it doesn't seem like anyone did that.
Not anyone of the pool like that's waiting for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Right.
Like no one, like, Tomoa and like all those Japanese climbers, like they didn't go and like do, as far as I know, I could be wrong about that, and apologies if I am, but it didn't seem like there was that drive at all or interest. It was like, okay, that's cool. We don't have to train for the Olympics until January now. So we're just going to, you know, just do normal training in the gym.
I wonder though. I mean, that's what I'm saying is like to fall into this like waiting training path. Like, what do you do? You know, do you just try to like...
They train for the training.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the game. Is like, well, what happens if I just stop? I bet you most people were like, I
then
can't
you start a
just stop.
podcast.
Yeah, you start a podcast, which is Adam Andra's podcast would destroy us. Don't start a podcast, Adam. I'm not worried about if Honnold starts a podcast. Not a problem there.
Just silence in the wind.
We challenge
I just
you,
climbed
Honnold.
El Cap 50 times. You're like, cool. It's like an hour and a half podcast, just quiet. I'm still kind of stuck on the idea of like flat Calouse in front of the speed climbing.
Yeah.
And like they're like, God, this is a terrible sporting event. Just zoom in on that guy, on that cutout, and it's just Calouse's face staring up. Like,
Yeah, well, it's basically
excitedly.
like we should
Can
get
you
a picture
imagine?
of me on Golden Gate when I was just like fucking terrified and like over like on day 7.
Totally.
Yeah. Then it'd just be like, God, that guy's really not having a good
That guy's
time.
not having a good time. Boom mic like falls off, cuts the cardboard thing in half. They're like, this is the worst.
True.
But are the Russians a banned from the Olympics because of their shenanigans? And
They were.
wasn't
I
the
think
speed
so.
climber
Yeah, I
dude?
think
Is
so.
he a Russian or is he Uzbekistani? Kyrgyzstani?
The speed climber.
yeah. Because wasn't that the big?
No, is he Iranian?
Maybe Iranian.
Yeah, but there was
Or-
no.
Forgive me for.
He's
None of
from
those-
some part of that world.
Yeah.
I might be fucking that up. I don't.
Did
think
any
he
of
might
those
be
guys qualify
Kazakhstani or
though?
something.
Like the true speed demons? Wasn't that one of our criticisms of the thing?
Oh, I don't know.
Because they can't.
That's a good point. I actually don't know who's in the Olympics.
I don't think
Okay, yeah.
that's
It was
actually
an aside, I
That's been a
apologize.
criticism of the format.
That's right.
Is that the true speed demons can't make it because you have to qualify in all of them, and they get so destroyed,
Right, in everything
in
else.
the bouldering and the sport climbing and that's one of the criticisms is like it's not an actual representation of the best because the best
Right.
speed climbers aren't qualified. Because they're just pure speed specialists.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah. So I doubt that the lion, he's like the lion, the Iranian guy, whatever his name is. We've talked about him before. And we didn't. It's a hard name to pronounce too. But
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Flat Calouse knows his name.
yeah,
he
Flat
does.
Calouse will be out because he'll
Got
do
his
a bunch of
autograph.
research. Flat Calouse is way better than Thick Calouse at research. The Everest season was also put down for the year, which probably is a good thing. Let that baby rest.
Did anyone climb Everest this year at all?
Unless it
Were
happened
the
early
Chinese
on.
trying to get in from their side?
I think the Chinese might have
so.
gotten.
I'm
I don't
sure.
know if they
snuck
summoned
in.
it or
They
not.
don't give a
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
No. Fuck no.
Yeah. But it's a shame because, I mean, obviously climbers and these guides, you know, it's kind of like a lot of other industries within climbing. They don't have a year of reserves just to chill. Although a lot of them guide here in the States or guide elsewhere. But it's a big loss of money. But it's also, you know, obviously it's a big loss of income for the locals and the
totally.
Sherpa. And,
For sure.
And all that. So, you know, there's a part of me that's like, God, give that mountain a rest, you know, like let some of the garbage get some snow on top of it. But then there's this other part of it that's a bummer because these guys depend on it.
I wrote a piece for National Geographic earlier this year about the Everest season closing down and just the worries about the Khumbu being this like hotbed of COVID spread. And it was interesting because in the months after I wrote that, there was almost no COVID reported in the Khumbu or in Nepal.
Right.
They had like zero numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was bullshit or not, or
Right.
they just weren't counting them. That's what everyone presumed. But it was only until like this last month or two that they were just like, we're fucked from COVID, basically.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It finally caught up with them because people...
I don't
I'm
know.
telling you, dude.
It was either always there and they just admitted it. I don't know. It's like
Right.
the Nepali government's like
Right.
got some weird stuff going on with that kind of thing. But
Well, with tourism and everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
I
it
would
was just,
imagine like
interesting.
shutting down all that trekking and all the. I mean, because it wasn't just Everest; they
Right.
shut the whole thing down. That you know, these people living up in these villages are normally extremely isolated. So
Well, they're isolated, but then they get this like mass of traffic of people from all over
Right.
the world.
That's what I'm saying, but
who
shutting
come-
it down.
Yeah.
would have kept it out of there.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then it's probably that it trickled in.
Right.
Just like everything else, this thing opened up and it trickled in and then it blew up.
Yeah, that
because
makes
of the
sense.
sanitation.
Totally. That
You
makes
know,
sense.
The same kind of thing in the like the Navajo lands here, where they just don't have water and sanitation the way
Right.
you need to keep it from moving about. So the other thing that definitely got a beat down this year was the festival scene. The last one I know of was Ure, which we attended. None of us, not the three of us, but myself and our other entourage member, Simon Longacre, as well as Brandy.
Ah, yes.
Brandy went down. That was kind of the last one. That was in late January or early February, and maybe the Bozeman one went off probably too. And then all the summer ones, they limped them along and kept pushing them back. And Lander was pushed back into August, and then they just said, forget it. We can't pull this thing off.
So do we want to just like those three things right there, do we want to give predictions on whether they're going to come back? Like the festivals, the Everest climbing season, and Olympics? Yeah.
They're all coming back.
All coming back.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, for sure. Don't you think?
I don't know. Are festivals coming back in the same level? Like, I feel like a lot of those are just like these fragile businesses that may or may not survive.
I don't know. There's. I mean, the Ure's trying to do it anyway.
Yeah.
They're trying to do a virtual one. Which
fuck that.
That is, I mean, good
Flat
on
Dilk
you for
will be
trying
watching.
to get it to
Flat
get
Dilk
it
will be
done.
watching that one.
Exactly.
Jesus.
So thick Dilk can go out and do something more interesting.
Exactly. Like anything, shoveling the driveway.
Zoom needs to come out with a flat filter.
I mean, how do people not have this already?
Where you just turn your head and drink water, and you're like,
Exactly.
you disappear, and you're too, the
It's
third
like those
dimension.
glasses with the eyes open that you would wear when you're trying to sleep.
That's weird because
This is gold.
That's actually isn't that in Infinite Jest? Have you guys read Infinite Jest?
I have
Fuck
not.
no.
I mean, I haven't read it all, but I think there's a whole thing about that in Infinite Jest.
Perfect.
I think that's in Infinite Jest. So somebody write in. I know there's some Infinite Jest people out there that have more
respect.
stamina than I do.
It's a thick one.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah. There's a lot of uses for these cardboard cutouts that we're talking about. But yeah, every season for sure. I mean, as soon as
it'll be back.
Nepal can't. I mean, it's like such a big part of their economy.
Yeah.
You got to bang it out for sure. Festivals. I mean, you're the one on the run out that predicted the orgies. That it was the Roaring 20s.
It's true.
Doesn't that fit into it? The festivals. Like,
yeah, maybe
the festivals are going to be like off.
We're going to get righteous again.
Righteous festivals.
Right.
Yeah, because some of them are a little long in the tooth.
Sure.
We go to them.
Yes.
And we can watch the trends. And, there's years when you're just like, man, this thing doesn't have it's no spark.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
the vim.
Yeah, and the vigor.
That's right.
So maybe they'll be like the most amazing festivals, the festival we've always wanted.
Right.
So
It was like the videos of New Zealand when they killed COVID and everyone was at the pub.
Right.
That would be, I imagine, the equivalent
Yeah.
at the festival.
Well, one festival I think might not come back is the trade show.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's had its death has had its name for a long time.
Yeah,
and
for
it's-
sure.
And
The
it's,
Reaper's been
the
looming.
Reaper's been looming over the trade show for a long time. It's just kind of felt obsolete for a lot of reasons, and
now there's just too much handshaking.
well, people are figuring out a way to do it without it,
Right.
which they've always done anyway.
Right.
And
Right.
it's just like I think that business has just been destroyed by having no trade shows for a year now.
Yeah, and it's like, well, what did we do for the last year? We didn't go to a trade show, which is a bummer. I like the trade show. I've talked about it a lot on the Enormocast. It's been really useful to me when I would do in-person interviews. Speaking of a TAPS thing, whether the all in-person interview comes back in the Enormocast remains to be seen as well. I don't think it will.
You don't think that the Denver Pavilion is filled with cardboard flat cutouts of everyone in their
That'll
booths?
be it. They'll try to have one more, and then everyone will just send their flat selves.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Exactly. It'd just be like completely silent other than like the elevator piped in music and just like, fuck that.
And
That would
the
be
only
like an incredible art piece.
Yeah.
Because it really like there's a lot to say about the fucking trade show in that art piece. If it was just
that is a
flat people.
Jeff Koons art installation
Totally.
in Denver this year.
That's you heard it here first. We got to do a fundraiser, a GoFundMe to do this art piece. I mean, how many millions does it take to rent out the convention center?
Not enough to not do it.
Yeah, I know. And then printing wouldn't be that big a deal.
No.
Yeah.
So everybody has to just like download themselves to us, and then we'll print out a flat version of them, and we'll have this like crazy ass convention with flat people.
And the only way you can get in is if A, you're on acid, B, you get like a walkie-talkie or like headpiece that like it's like one of those museum things where you like get to an installation and you press
the audio
press
tour
the
or
code.
whatever.
It's just
Totally.
like,
And it tells
this
you
is
about
the
like
North Face booth.
Yeah, the new
1979. North Face was born from the little like wand.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is. Are you guys? Is Kenji listening? I mean, this is. You know,
this is the future.
This is the future of trade shows. The flat trade show. You need no security.
Right.
It's like those people don't get out.
No
of
more
hand.
free socks.
Yeah.
Put those away.
Another thing that took a huge hit and obviously is not dead, but is sort of staggering around with like, you know, a shotgun blast to one arm, kind of zombie style, is our climbing gyms. Climbing gyms took a brutal hit. Some of them are gone, and you know, if your local community climbing gym bit the dust, you know, our condolences. Ours, I think, was definitely wobbling towards the grave. It's open now, and
still not
Fabrizio
solid. I don't
kept
think.
it going, but yeah, and that's just the thing is like. They're open at shorter capacity, so they could. This is not the end of the troubles for the climbing gyms.
Yeah, for sure.
For months, I feel like I made that joke at the beginning of the show. It was a little like I was kind of astounded at the amount of climbing gyms, and I think there was maybe like a bit of sort of a bubble, a classic sort of bubble. Everybody wanted on board, so maybe it was going to slow down one way or the other. But the loss of like the privately owned local climbing gym. And I know there's been some that, especially in the East Coast, that have gone, is a total drag because those are usually the pulse of the local climbing community.
Do you think that, I mean, like this virus could be here for a while, and do you think that there's, like, imagine 2022 where climbing gyms are open full capacity, but you just have to wear a mask? Do you think that could be a reality?
It could be,
yeah.
And do you think that people are going to sign on to the gym with the same enthusiasm as before?
That kind of thing would lop off the like this kind of, you know, huge curve they were on,
right?
With, you know, because the big trend in climbing gyms over the long view is the fact that, you know, climbing gyms originally were originally training centers for climbers, and it was only when these idiots realized that you got to bring in new people if you want to have a decent business model that we created the modern climbing gym. And the modern climbing gym is all about new people, bringing them into climbing.
Right.
You know, special deals, classes, get in here, try it out, check it out. It's really fun. Have a birthday party. I mean, I've
climb a 510.
Yeah. A what? But I mean, I've now that I've been at the Enormocast for so long, I've interviewed a bunch of really great professional and climbers that they literally went to a birthday party. The late great Brad Gobright fucking went to a birthday party at a gym I used to work at in Costa Mesa. Even in the I might even have been there. Literally, you know, we sort of like figured the timeline out. So yeah, I mean that whole trend I think would be like people will be a little who don't already love climbing. Like it'll take a little spark out of the this looks awesome. Oh wait, you got to go do a physical thing with masks on. So I just hope I mean that's not the case, you know.
Yeah,
the mask thing. I've been climbing in the mask in the gym, and I don't know what I do with my face and chin while I'm climbing, but the fucking thing ends up over my eyes every time. So I'm on the top of the wall, which I'm scared of anyway, even though it's a bouldering gym.
The mats are hard,
and the mask's on my face. Yeah, so it's I don't know. So I mean, I don't mind the breathing part of it. It's not super aerobic, but I don't know. I got to get a better mask, I think, is all. So yeah, mask. Can you imagine? I mean, it's all just part of our lives now.
Yeah,
it's like wearing
crazy.
underwear.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's really weird.
Yeah, I know. Do you still forget them when you go into the store? You're like, I don't have one.
You know what I figured out is that pocket, the breast pocket that's on all outdoor gear that I've never used. I don't know what it's for.
You don't put pens in there?
No. What do you need a pen for?
Writing.
when you're outside?
Oh, maybe not right outside, but yeah.
But that's a great place to put your mask. So like all my jackets seem to now have like a beat up, crusty freaking mask. in it, if you have like the disposable ones.
That's what I did. I just threw one in.
They're just everywhere. Yeah. So anyway, masks. High fives, dead.
Gone.
I don't think they'll ever come back.
No, they're coming back.
You think shaking hands is coming back?
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are gonna.
As soon as it's cleared up,
I do think.
I don't know.
Yeah,
did high fives even really go away? I mean, I feel like they made a temporary departure from climbing, and then people were high fiving
It's like
again.
fist pump. High
yeah, but I've been
five.
elbow
I feel like
bumping.
high five went
Don't
down.
you think the elbow bump is the thing now?
When was the last time you elbow bumped?
Pretty recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say goodbye with the elbow.
Yeah, and you're not sure when you're not sure of the status of the other person.
Right.
Elbow. That's what I do. That's my default. I'm just
the
like,
elbow.
Yeah.
You kind of look like a virus-ridden dirtbag elbow.
It's true.
Well,
I may or may not be positive.
Are people high-fiving still? That's another listener question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I high-fived a guy the week before the lockdown, and I got in touch with him. We ended up getting in touch, and I apologized for high-fiving. Because it was right when we were down in the North Washington. It was right when it was like the writing was on the wall. Yeah. So, and I accidentally like high-fived him. I mean, it was me. I initiated it, and he high-fived me, sort of like, uh-oh.
You sense the hesitancy.
Oh, yeah.
Hesitancy.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've never been a fan of high fiving in general.
Okay, so this is a good one for you.
Yeah, so this is fine for me if that goes away. But I gotta say the thing that the more important thing is just the lack of like connection or like emotion that you can express to strangers.
Yeah.
Like if you're
Yes.
wearing a mask and
Totally.
you can't smile at them, and or you meet someone new and they're like, hey. You know, I'm from here, and you're like, oh, I'm from there too, and then you can't connect in a way that just feels meaningful.
Sure,
it's just
right.
like, yeah, I don't know. So I feel like that is going to. I mean, that's obviously was dead this last year, and yeah, I think that's going to come back in a big way in some way.
Yeah,
Right.
Hopefully not in high fives because
I mean, we
just
need
have
each
a
other,
thing
like-
against that. But
Will you be using COVID for the next 50 years to not do high fives? You're like, yo, I may have COVID. And you're like, what's that? And you're like, it's a
I mean,
thing.
I've been using
it's
it
a,
all
it's a
year to
thing
stay
from
at
like
home.
50 years
no,
ago.
it's good.
So
COVID 50. You're just like, I still got it.
I still got it.
No high
Let's
fives.
not get this thing started again.
Right.
No, I have been using COVID though I mean, it's been nice to like, you know, decline invitations to do things.
Absolutely. It's the greatest.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, sorry, Mom, can't come home for Christmas.
That's right.
got the Rona.
Got the Rona.
Right.
Although my mom got the Rona. She's fine. Another thing that we have to bring up, and I don't like to do a ton of obituaries on this because it's mostly tongue-in-cheek. Actually, it's all tongue-in-cheek. But Joe Brown passed away this year, the great old British climber.
That's right.
From the 50s and the 60s and the hard years.
hard years.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so the reason I bring that up is because Steve Dilk and I actually pronounced Mr. Brown dead already.
Right. A little early.
Either last year or the year before, even,
I
maybe.
think it was last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we just assumed he was dead, and he wasn't. He was still alive. We heard from UK listeners letting us know that
We were
he was
in
in
error.
fact alive. We apologized. I apologized on air.
Yep.
It was actually when he heard that episode that he died.
Fuck them. I'm still... Papa. Actually, no, his kids, I'm sure, are in their 60s if he has them. Anyhow, so our apologies to Joe Brown for prematurely calling his death, and our condolences to his family and his admirers. And there were a great many admirers of Joe Brown. So Joe Brown did pass this year. But I'll tell you what, I believe he was 89 years old and had lived an extraordinary life. To be envied, to live that long, and to be admired in the way he was. So,
And his legacy lives on.
His legacy does live on here on the Enormocast, if nowhere else. To you, Mr. Brown.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Finally, Dilk's single life as well as his whiskey.
Not correlated, though.
Yeah, so ladies, I got bad news for you. The Dilksters.
It's out of the game.
Out of the game. He's engaged to be married. Although
right.
that's only halfway there.
And weddings, I think, are a victim of COVID. So
Yeah.
I'm off the hook. Long live COVID.
Does Julia listen to the show?
I hope not.
It was already shaky whether you could even come tonight.
That's right.
Anyway, so yeah, sorry, ladies. Although I believe Flat Dilk is still available.
He is for now.
Perhaps Flat Sasha DeJulian is available.
Flat Dilk takes all comers, I think.
Awesome. And one last 2020 mention is something that sprang to life and then was killed. It was basically killed by the mob. Not the mob, like the mafia mob, but a mob. Just weeks after it sprang to life, at least in our imagination, and that was the monolith. The monolith out in the Utah desert.
Killed by the mob.
Killed by the mob.
Which is also how you pronounce Moab in some circles.
Yeah. And the reason that's a climbing story is because if anybody figured out where it was actually just north of Indian Creek.
That's right.
And the way to access it was to drive out and turn over by Hamburger Rocks. I believe there's a couple different ways. Actually, you could also go out past the wall in Indian Creek and just keep on driving on that road to head up towards Lockhart Basin where it was located. Right there by Indian Creek. And I don't know if any climbers ever were able to get up there in time because it was discovered in
I saw Craig Child went up there.
Oh yeah.
Oh cool.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen it. We all talked about that.
Yeah.
So we were all bummed. I think that it was gone before we could make we would have held the Taps edition out there. Actually.
Yeah. We'd be there.
Place of power for sure.
Totally. It was, there was a flock of pilgrims going to pay homage to the monolith, and then sketchy Andy Lewis and a crew from Moab decided that it was too much and went and tore it down. And I don't know, did they give it to the BLM or something, or is it?
I think it's still in limbo, but it's eventually going to the BLM.
Yeah, and they gave some sort of vague notions of leave no trace, people trashing that part of the desert as their reasoning for doing it.
I can talk about my thoughts about that, but I spelled it out a bit on a final bit for the run out, and also posted that on Evening Sends. And I don't know how much we want to get into that. You can read my thoughts about that, but I just thought it was like. It was a really cool thing. It was like one of the bright spots of 2020 in terms of just like mainstream news that you heard. And it was just this mysterious, cool thing that I thought was cool. But people can't handle cool shit. They like wreck the environment going to see the cool shit, or they take it away so that no one else can enjoy it. And so there was like a moment of just like a bright spot in the shit that was 2020.
That was then turned to shit.
And then it was turned to shit too. Yeah. So thanks everyone for that.
Is another monolith on the way though?
Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, and I think that like for me, talking about your bright spot in it, it still goes back to the fact that it was no hype. Whoever fucking put that thing there still remains anonymous.
That's why there could be no other monolith.
Right.
Okay.
They put it there. They didn't post it on Instagram. I mean,
copycat immediately.
It's been there since at least around 2016. I think people checked Google Earth
at least
records.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Just sitting there with no hype. Not a single. I mean, in this day and age, like not a single peep leaked out about this thing out in the desert.
That's what's so intriguing
it's
about
so
it.
awesome.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's like this complete rebuttal against social media.
Right.
Is basic, and then social media basically killed it.
Yep.
I mean, that's a good point. I didn't really think about it that way, but
totally.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. R.I.P. monolith.
Yeah, R.I.P. monolith.
Totally.
R.I.P. people doing stuff for no accolades.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's gone too.
That can lead us into some other tangible topics that we can get into.
Totally. I don't know. There's probably a bunch of other stuff that was put down in 2020 that may come back climbing trend wise, but we're glad to see it go 2020.
Yeah, fuck you 2020.
Yeah, definitely.
And hopefully 2021 we'll see the resurrection of several of these things that we'll miss if they're gone for good.
Once it starts on January 20th.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Jesus Christ. We're like in the 2020 hangover right now. All right, so things that I've sort of put on my list as stuff that's been it's maybe accelerated this year, but I think have been dying a slow death for quite some time. And in fact, looking at this very moment, it reminds me that episode 2 of the Enormocast was Take Your Secret Crag and Shove It. And it was about secret crags and this idea of like building these climbing areas and not telling anybody about them so you can keep them all to yourself. It was a mixed bag, but I think my final assertion was that it kind of sucked because you know, certainly if that's the only place you ever climb, then good on you. But as soon as you go to someone else's climbing area, whether it's publicized or not, it's not fair that you're sort of using those resources and mucking up that scene with your presence without like sharing the goods. So if you truly are some misanthrope that's out there by yourself at your secret crag, then great. But, you know, like I said, you got to sort of share. That was my assessment then, but I might have changed that a little bit.
How have you changed?
Well, because I think one of the things that's dying, and especially with the influx of outdoor users this year, is your secret place. Like your out-of-the-way zone that only you and a few of your friends knew about, and it, you know, in your estimation, it was too far off the beaten path for anybody else to get there. And, you know, it's always been like, if you don't like the crags, if you don't like the crowding of the crags, just walk a little further. And I think that's like less and less and less true.
Interesting. Not related to like 2020 or COVID.
Although 2020 maybe accelerated it because so many people were in the backcountry this year, it maybe became a little more apparent, but I think it's been ongoing.
Well, I would protest or just like contest the notion that people really just want to have a secret crag to begin with.
Yeah.
It's like a temporary thing. Like they only want to have a secret crag until they can do the routes that they can do. And then they want everyone to come and look at it and see how great they are as people.
For sure.
And like give them accolades and write guidebooks about them and all of that. And so maybe what's changed is that all of the secret crags are now at the stage of being they're in the phase of now it's time for the crowds to come and give praise be to the first ascensionists. Or do you think it's the mentality of just keeping something to yourself is dying?
These are all contributing factors.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously social media is, I mean, I'll just say that. I mean, I find out about places and I get intrigued by things, seeing them on social media all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like, where is that? That is so sick looking. You know, and that was a thing that happened from the magazines. I mean, this is like the same sort of trail that we've been talking about elsewhere. That used to be the magazines, and you know, or the Alpine Journal was a big one, right? But the fact that it's, you know, all that stuff is accelerated in accessibility and everything else. You know, it's not like I'm saying that I'm like above it all or immune to it. I'm part of it. Like I want to go to these faraway places and find them and check them out. I mean, I'm not going to anymore probably, but I can feel that pull. But I mean, even like the secret crag thing isn't quite the same thing as, you know, having that place, even a climbing area that has fallen out of fashion and you show up and you're like the only one there. I think even that's like just disappearing because of more climbers, which was a trend that was happening before 2020. Certainly 2020 accelerated, like I said, all the people out there, and then social media certainly is contributing at 1,000%. Like I mean, I can't keep my mouth shut either. You know, like I'll just say, like, you know, it's
that's
like,
why you have a podcast.
Well, I mean, I mean, that's totally true. But also, like the Northwash down in southern Utah is like this kind of alternate Indian Creek type zone. Certainly not as good. And I've been going there for years. But then you know, it's like I started talking about my project that I had there last year. I talked about it on the run out. I'm talking about it here right now. It's like I can't keep my mouth shut either. You know?
Yeah. And a lot of the fears about like the Northwash and your project being overrun with like people, it ends up being like totally unfounded because people just want to go to the normal places for the most part. But yeah, it is funny. Like I have noticed, you know, certain captions and various media, it'll be like, you know, blah, 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 pro climber climbing some 13 or 14 or whatever on a wall somewhere in the Nevada desert.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a little bit just
Well,
like,
there's crags up in
it's
Salt
like a
Lake
little,
where
it's
they're all cagey about.
yeah, it's like a little cagey, but it's like you're still posting it on social media to like hundreds of
but that
thousands
used
of
to happen
people.
in the magazines, remember?
Same thing, yeah.
The caption was like, the Colorado Plateau. It's like, hundreds of thousands
It's just
of
like,
square
what's the
miles.
name of the crag? Where
Just tell us where the fuck it is. Or don't print the picture.
Right.
Right.
That was the thing. It's like, either be the guy, but those guys existed and still exist, who literally like went out, climbed shit, and didn't want to talk about it at all, and are now pissed where people are like climbing their roots and renaming them, or like or advertising them. I mean, I've encountered it in the creek, certainly, and so it's like.
Well, just to go back
They
to
existed,
the
yeah.
monolith analogy, like there was this experience at one point of going, like just hiking through the San Rafael swell or something like that, and being like, whoa, there's a bolt up there.
Yeah.
It's like a tiny monolith right there. It's like you stumble upon a tiny little thing where it's like, oh, someone's been here. I don't know who it is. I can't find any information about it, but someone was up there doing something. I guess that's one of the reasons I like the monolith. I don't want to draw us back into that conversation, but to just to speak to that mentality of being the lone person establishing art out in the middle of the desert in nowhere lands and not telling anyone about it, not putting it on a mountain project, and truly like keeping it a secret crag is, I think that's gone. That's done. Like nobody does that anymore.
No, certainly a trend that's dying.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think probably if you're a backcountry skier and you're a hiker or a canyon person, like you're all just like nodding your head like, oh yeah, I used to have this zone where no one was ever there. And it's like, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I posted some pictures and, it's now there's people there. Not because you posted pictures, but just all the different factors that have come into it.
Without
that
question.
have led us here to where the outdoor industry is certainly culpable, because they want more people out there and they want to sell more gear. And it's just been this relentless trend that usually we're like, oh, it's great. And everybody's included. And then when you get to your place and there's like 6 RVs with their generators running, you're just like, oh, maybe we didn't want to include these people.
Yeah. Secret crags are dead.
Secret crags are dead.
Dead.
Someone's be like, no, they're not. They're going to tell me where theirs is.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm going to talk about it on the Enormocast. Fuck you.
Next time they walk out to their secret crags, they're going to see flat Calusas and flat Dilks and flat Bisharats.
It's like Calusas here.
Right.
That'll be my little calling card. That, or I was going to market mini monoliths now that you brought it up. Just leave a mini monolith just so people know I was there.
The toboggan chocolate.
No, it's not toboggan. It's Toblerone.
There you
is
go.
What you're thinking of. Yeah, the
Toblerone.
Close enough to toboggan for me.
Toboggan chocolate. Should be called toboggan.
Another big trend, I don't think this has anything to do with 2020 actually, so we can get off that wagon for a minute, is the death of pure hard ground up climbing. The idea that there's no previewing to the climb, that you leave the ground, climb to the top. If you fail, you come down, you don't go back. You've desecrated the route. It's done. Or you come down and you try again some other time. But this idea that approaching a difficulty, especially first ascent, ground up, I think is on its way out.
Yes, I would agree. Mostly. Yeah.
The caveat of
Andra.
Well, yeah, I think there's this caveat of how people Andra's climb of the Dawn Wall comes to mind, where he went up the Dawn Wall the first time from the ground up, and he freed a lot of it, an impressive amount, but he didn't obviously do all of it. But it was just important for him to do that style first.
Right.
In general, I would say, I think the idea of doing trad climbing ground up, especially really cutting edge hard trad climbing, is always been a little bit of a myth, or at least since the end of the 80s. It's been a myth for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Basically since sport climbing tactics have just made a lot more sense to people. But I think the thing that you're getting at, Chris, and I was thinking about this because we talked about this in our first take, where we kind of went off the rails.
Yeah,
right
it got
here,
way off the rails.
But I think what I think what you're really saying, and you can correct me if
Actually,
I'm wrong.
I think that was a part where I looked over and Steve's eyes were actually closed and he was on the couch.
It was a riveting episode.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that what I think you were really saying is that the style of ascent matters so much less now.
Yeah, it's a bit of that for sure.
It's not exclusively the ground up thing, although that isn't a part of it. It's the how routes get done. Nobody seems to care about that in general.
Yeah.
So I guess the specificity of the ground up thing threw me off, because I feel like people in general don't actually care how you get something done. They just want to know whether you did it or not, or whether you have sufficient cool pictures of yourself doing it that you can share on your social media channel.
Yeah, but it used to be a thing.
It used to be a thing. Yeah, big deal.
Especially, and I think a lot of it, we're again just talking to someone in the UK climbing scene, and of course we came to the grid, and that's a place where that's a really important part of the ethos there. Mm-hmm. And it's an important part of the ethos there because it's what's made that crag, which is, I've mentioned this before. It's just look at a picture of that cliff zoomed out. The cliff is not super impressive. It's little. It's these little lumps sticking out. They're small. Yeah. Okay. I mean, they actually literally boulder some of these routes now, right? But they maximized its worth by having these ethics and these rules. And there was pressure from the outside. If you went there, I think it still is. You can't just go there and fucking debase these climbs. You have to approach it this certain way. The last kind of really amazing storied ground up thing that I can think of is Leo Holding on the Prophet on El Cap. And of course he's from that scene. So there he is bringing these ethics to this giant, 13, 14, 15 pitch route. But the epic attempt to go ground up on that, on a dangerous climb and climb into nowhere and not preview the gear and not even know if it was freeable, was the last kind of really storied attempt of that. They failed to do it. They actually ended up previewing the top of it, which was part of the story of how disappointed they were to let not just themselves down, but at that time, the pressure of other people, of this ethic. Because an ethic is, partially like the pressure of the agreed upon tactics agreed upon by the community. So without that pressure, you're kind of out there by yourself, and it's pretty easy to just let them break down.
I think what's so interesting about the Gritstone is it's kind of an argument for elitism in a way, and on such an unelite looking cliff,
sure.
Or a group of basically glorified boulders. They have a very strict anti-bolt ethic,
right.
And imagine if those boulders had 3 or 4 bolts in them, and they would just be they wouldn't be special, basically,
right? Yeah.
So it's an interesting idea, but they leave room. I think where the Gritstone scene has landed is they do leave room for
the rehearsal. The
rehearsal,
point.
yeah.
Because it's gone out. That's it. The ground up thing went out there as well.
So you can top rope there all you want, and nobody bats an eye and looks down on you, and that's fine. But they don't put bolts in the wall, and they allow for this this leveling up, this elitist aspiration of trying to do something that's sketchy and hard. And that's what keeps these tiny little rocks that they have interesting and relevant after all of these years. I don't think that you can, and I don't think you would make this argument, Chris, but the ground up ethic is necessarily superior to any ethic. But just the idea of ethics in general is a strong thing to keep in mind in having approaching crags in development with the idea that there could be multiple. How do you create the scenario where there's so many different levels of expression for ethics?
Right.
If the Prophet had been bolted on the crack pitch or whatever it is, you can take a route down in different ways, but it would have been a route, and Leo could have maybe done a ground up, and would that have been superior to the way he did it, which is he tried a ground up, he failed in a proud way, and then he resorted to the tactics that he needed to do to get it done, and now it's still a route that's available to the next person who wants to surpass what Leo did. So Yeah, I think that I don't know how to articulate that exactly, but do people think about these things anymore? Are they considering how, as developers, maybe like they are leaving open the possibility for future interpretations of a climbing style, but still making it accessible to people who aren't willing to like just go batshit extreme and like risk their lives to do it? Yeah, it's like a fine balance, but that's like what's so interesting about this discussion. And I think you're right to point out that it's sad that in a lot of ways that doesn't seem to be anything that anyone's talking about. It's not emphasized. You know, even if people were to just emphasize like, this is how the style I did my route,
right?
They don't do that anymore.
Right.
They don't care. Like no one cares, and no one's asking that question. As the young journalists now don't ask that question, and it's too bad because that's part of. It's not the whole part of climbing ethics, but it's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that all of climbing ethics, I think, in my opinion, seems to be de-emphasized in general is like really where there's like a loss that that should come back. I hope it comes back.
Well, and there's like a framing that you can do there with ethics, you know, are also aesthetics. And that, and a lot of times they're the same thing, you know. And if you think about the gritstone, there's an aesthetic to the fact that it's not fucking bolted, you know, and in certain places, like you can think of bolts as, you know, your mini monoliths, your installations, this route that was created. But in a lot of places they are garbage, you know, and especially a place as old as that, you'd have like, you know, spits, and you'd have like machine bolts that were pulled out of some like, you know, boiler from 1889 in Sheffield that some idiot in 1949 went and bashed into that cliff. I mean, you know, it would literally be a fucking mess if they had not somehow like codified this idea that no, we're not going to fucking put bolts in this thing. Because you can imagine 50 years of different types of shitty bolts sticking out of that cliff would be a mess. So there's aesthetics involved too. And I think that as climbers, we are actually really interested in aesthetics and what our climbs look like. I mean, it's always, you talk about crack climbs or overhanging walls or caves. I mean, the aesthetics are part of it. So, you know, to sort of just like abandon ethics is also in some ways to abandon aesthetics around what we're up to and what we're climbing.
The part of this conversation that drives me nuts is the idea that people can't hold two or multiple ideas about aesthetics and ethics in their heads at the same time.
Right.
Like the idea that bolts are bad just like gets entrenched in some people's minds, and so they, you know, they're like, the gritstone's the only pure cliff, and then they go to the Dolomites and they're like, this is all bullshit, like it's all bolted and whatever. I just think that's wrong. Like it's a short-sighted way of looking at, like, clearly there's a difference between Dolomitic rock and gritstone.
Sure.
And so, and the size of it and all of that stuff like makes a difference. And so there's no easy way to just like codify exactly what the rules are or ought to be. But I think that we get closer to like being able to articulate what that might be by having conversations around what's interesting and rad around style and ethics.
Right.
And it's, if we can't have those, or if people aren't having those conversations because now they find them uninteresting, well, I don't think that's a good thing.
One other thing I thought about is like, I'm not necessarily lamenting it. So I think a thing that has like started to die, and I lament this a great deal, and I think if people listen to the show, they'll understand why I lament this, and Andrew, you will too. And I think taking the piss out of each other in climbing is something I think that there's this tradition with, but we're in such this sensitive inclusion time that it's like you can be like just fucking knocking somebody as a joke, and like very quickly it can become like this total insult, or like you said it in a wrong way. And again, taking the piss is like a British or Australian way of like giving people shit, like just giving people shit in a lighthearted, like friendly, like manner, you know. And I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like we're in this time of sensitivity where that tradition, which is a very strong tradition, is going by the wayside, and it sort of bums me out. that like you can't fucking give each other shit about dumbass things they do in climbing. And climbing in itself is fucking dumb. It's super, super dumb.
Well, I just want to say as a semantic argument that taking the piss and giving shit meaning the same thing doesn't make any sense to me.
That's okay. It's all colloquialisms.
That's right.
Do you know what I'm saying though? Like,
Yeah.
How do you take piss and then give shit, and that's the same thing?
You take the piss.
But what do you do with the piss?
It's sprayed like a trucker bomb.
I've never understood that phrase.
You know what a trucker bomb is?
No.
Oh man, it's when a long haul truckers on a long haul, they piss in a giant jug and they chuck it on the highway. Yeah, my friends have hit them before.
Oh really?
Oh, it's awful. Friend of mine was driving a convertible.
Really?
I was like, oh, look at that, gallon jug on the side of the road. I'm gonna smash it. Boom!
Who
trucker
did that?
bomb. Blake Gordon, actually. Funny story, because it hit the radiator and just splashed them. They took the piss.
They got
wow. Okay, that makes sense now.
Took the piss.
Yeah, in the mouth. It went through the radiator. It was a hot day.
It's like half amphetamines.
Yeah,
fucking trucker piss.
It's like rancid. It's awful.
Yeah, you give shit, you take the piss. So,
do you think that that's a function of like the past year and just people being
Well,
like, I'm not going to like give people shit. People are dying and all this.
Right. It's also a PC culture thing,
right?
For sure.
So you have noticed it, even in like say the media, climbing media.
Absolutely.
They're not doing that nearly as much as they used to, or being as like self-recriminating.
Yeah.
Well, the stakes seem really high.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really interesting. Like I've just noticed how the culture, like I've been watching like Netflix and shit, and
who hasn't?
The Netflix shows now are like so cloyingly sweet, and like it's like the opposite. Like if you look back to the 90s, like everything was so sarcastic and cynical, but everything economically and societally was like on the way up, and like people were feeling good.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like there's this inverse relationship between what our pop culture says and how we're doing as a society.
We need to be comforted. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something like going on right now in pop culture where you turn on Netflix and you see these shows where people are just like very saccharine and like open and not they're not insulting each other and they're not being cynical, and I think that's a direct inverse of how we are and how we feel at the moment. And so I think that's part of what's going on right now.
Right.
Is like you can't like take the piss or give the shit,
Yeah, give the shit.
That's what it should
German.
be.
We shall give the shit.
Very German.
Are you giving me the shit?
To give you the shit? Well, actually, it's funny you say that because
you.
what did Nina say on the run out? She screwed up take a shit or give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the run out, Nina Caprez messed that up as a English, French,
like
German
an idiom
English speaker.
thing?
Yeah, an idiom thing. Give a shit or take a shit. And I said, yeah. She was trying to say I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
She said I don't take a shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, taking a shit's different.
That's excellent.
It was funny though because I think about how I relate to my buddies climbing, and it's like we just give each other so much shit, and I think I have a tendency to think that everybody like kind of interacts like that, and maybe I'm wrong about it altogether. But having like interviewed some British climbers, UK climbers in the last couple of years, I feel as though that scene is way still more down with that of like hanging out and fucking like, sitting there being able to like give it and take it.
Yeah, the Brits are. I hope they never
lose it.
I agree. Yeah, never lose
it.
that.
Yeah. I think we're losing it, and maybe
we're
it's
losing
okay.
It.
And,
no, it's not okay. And I'll tell you why it's not okay. It's not okay because it's disrespectful to people's full humanity.
Right.
Like if you are treating the person that you're engaging with these kid gloves where they can't handle, the most obviously mild insult,
right,
or obviously terrible thing that you could think of to say in that moment,
right.
Like you're treating someone not as a human being.
Sure.
You're treating them as a person that you assume they cannot handle, the full reality of like living, or just like being able to hear words or have a joke made about them. All of that stuff it's just like, it drives me nuts. Like you that's how we want to live. I want people to tell me to, take a shit on me and give me the piss. And I hope that on my obituary, someone takes that clip out of context and uses it against me.
Now we're getting into the sexy stuff.
Anyway, it's the same thing with like, you want your climbing partner to be real with you.
Yeah,
you
totally.
don't want them to bullshit you and say, I'm a 5'10" climber, but actually I can only climb like 5'8", right, or whatever it is, or like I'm just a 5'8" climber. I'm just trying to be humble, but I'm really like a 5'12" climber. Like, I don't want to climb with anyone like that.
Right.
I don't want to climb with people who are not being honest and who can't like have fun and like talk to me like I'm a real human being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, the thing I think is, it gets in my mind is the fact, again, that like, it's just all so dumb, you're in rifle and someone's complaining about how they don't have the right duct tape for their fucking knee pad. Like, that's really dumb. And you're also right. Like, there is better duct tape than other duct tapes, but I couldn't give you a little fucking shit for that's your like little bitchy complaint.
You have to be able to do that,
right?
To like,
and
to,
that person
to be able
has to like be like, oh yeah, this is dumb. Like, if I was like a decent climber, I wouldn't fucking be worrying about the quality of my duct tape on my fucking,
If you, I'm afraid to make those kinds of jokes now because
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know that's what you're saying, and I'm in the same boat, and it's a shame because that is really how people connect with each other.
Right. Yeah.
It really is. Like,
tricky.
that's how those little jokes, like innocuous, like potentially line crossing jokes, is how people express their vulnerability about things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And humor is how humor is how we get like be comfortable with things that are uncomfortable.
Yep. Well, and it's funny that you say that because there's this idea, I think, within climbing, and this idea of vulnerability being this like real strength, right? Mm-hmm. Be vulnerable and that's just my thing. It's like, well, part of being vulnerable is that, like, be willing to sort of look at your own foibles, because climbing is just so full of those types of things. Like, and I think that the Enormocast definitely like makes a living off of that, and the Runout does too. This idea that like it's just full of all this silly shit that we do, and it's worth making fun of it.
Yeah,
I agree. Because if you're taking your like 12B project wherever it is like super seriously, when there's all this other shit going on in the world, like, that there's something wrong. Like, you gotta like chill out, man.
Yeah.
And one way to chill out is like look at it critically and be like, this is hilarious. Like, I'm throwing a fucking fit because I slipped off a 1/4 inch of limestone in the middle of this wall. Like, that's making me upset, and like I'm throwing a goddamn fit. Like,
well, we're talking about all the climbing stuff, but there's all the jokey stuff in between too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really where the relationships get made as well. Like, because anyway, but yeah, I'm totally on board with what you're saying, Chris. I think that people need to.
It's climbing, yo.
Yeah, just like loosen up.
Silly.
Yeah.
Silly and meaningless.
Take the piss.
Take the piss and
give the shit.
Give the shit. Take the piss. I mean, the fact that it's bodily functions, man. Bodily functions are hilarious.
Golden.
Okay. Last year, last Taps episode, we did a lot of fucking talk about canceling. Mm-hmm. It actually turned into sort of a canceling episode.
Okay.
Which there's room for that. Like, this is the part of the Taps episode where we talk about things we wish would go into a fiery, meteoric death into the sun.
In a humorous way, of course.
In a humorous way. Taking the piss, if you will, or giving the shit. What would you rather do, Steve? Give the shit or take the piss?
Give the shit.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take the piss then. And you can be the wild card over there, Andrew. Andrew, this was one that you brought up.
April Fools.
The April Fool's gag.
Yeah. April Fool's jokes by companies and climbing media brands is so dumb.
You don't like these yuck yucks? This is good yuck yucks.
Taking the piss.
This is taking the piss.
They're not taking the piss.
It's
They're
just
giving
not
a shit.
funny. If it was funny, I'd be on board, but it's not funny.
It's not good.
It's just so expected and it's stupid.
The expectation of it is the problem.
There it is.
But it's
Can
just
you
not
rise
even
above that?
creative. It's not even creative what people are doing now. It's just like, it just feels forced. Like if you were forced to go and say something funny and you said something that wasn't funny and everyone seemingly around you clapped because they were supposed to laugh at the thing that was funny. That's what I feel like this is.
Is there any that you could say was funny that you enjoyed in the past?
No, they're all bad.
Is there anything you could imagine that would maybe get a rise out of you? If like Black Diamond,
It's just so expected. Like
if Black Diamond was like, Heinold fell free soloing today, and it was just dark.
That was it, like a straight
darkness.
Straight
full,
darkness.
You know, the GoFundMe was up. Everything.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be funny.
Don't take that, Parker. Don't take that. That's mine.
See, that's what the problem is. It's a personality
Yeah,
thing.
and you'd have to go hardcore.
You know?
And that would shatter people.
I guess, I don't know, maybe because I know the guys like at BD, because we're talking about Honnold.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I thought that the last year's one with the giant cam was funny.
I didn't see it.
You know, okay. Dilk is like a delicate, pure.
Actually,
Like he's like a pure flower, like untainted by social media.
No media waves
Yep.
hitting me.
you know, that
Beautiful. You're a beautiful person. It's like your aura. His aura is like,
I know.
especially now that you're not drinking whiskey.
We're all so
the cheese
jealous
going
of you.
up for sure.
we're all jealous of Steve.
We are jealous of Steve. Steve Dilk. There's no Facebook. There's no
Nope, none of it.
Instagram. There's no Twitter.
None.
Nothing.
Nada.
He's a free spirit
Yeah.
out in the world.
That's right.
So he doesn't get the barrage of April Fool's yucks.
What do you do on your phone?
Call people.
Yeah, call people, text people.
Text people.
Yep.
Text and call.
That's a big one.
And use it to navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use it to navigate podcasts.
I hate calling people.
Yeah.
That's the irony of the calling it a phone anymore. I fucking hate talking on the phone. I never call people.
Really?
I'll fucking blow my thumbs out texting before I'll press the call button.
I was like that too, but I so enjoy calling people now.
All right, I got to get back on board with that. I don't know. I'm afraid that, and I think it's a disposition thing. Is I got to push back against the no April Fools.
Yeah, this is a dispositional
Yes.
argument.
And
here,
we're
for
gonna.
sure.
I mean, to be honest with you, we're gonna need some yucks this year, man. Just some straight up dumb yucks. I think are a good thing.
was the big Cam Black Diamond thing this year?
That was this year
During
It was in
COVID.
April. Yeah, during COVID.
See, like already they're not reading the room.
What do you mean? People loved it.
You know, it could have been a COVID joke, but
Maybe-
it was just like a
No
big
one-
Cam
So
thing.
he was like, hey, let me break out the number 50. And it was like a fucking the size of a house or something.
Yeah, it was a whole. It was again. They get Honnold on board.
Yeah.
He's climbing with this ginormous. I think it was this year. It wasn't 2 years. No, it was this year.
Yeah, it was this
fucking
year.
time.
No, it was good. I
in
will
my
say
head,
this.
Like
It was-
time in
it
my
was good.
head is gone. Like I have no idea when.
Yeah,
things
I
happen.
agree.
It was
Time
high
is-
production value. They put a lot of effort
Yeah.
into it. I
They-
thought
they
it was
built
funny.
this crazy
They did a good
ass-
job.
We cracked them, folks.
Yes.
We cracked them.
Like it's,
But it was just
chimney size.
expected.
But it
That's
had a
awesome.
purpose. It was because they came out with the 7 and the 8.
Oh, okay. So it was tied into a marketing
Yeah,
scheme.
and I think really the funny thing about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a thumbs down over there. I think it was the funny thing about it is the fact that even though the giantest one, like the 5'8" chimney sized,
Yeah.
like the chimney you're never gonna fall out of.
Yeah.
I think people were actually probably bummed that
It
didn't
didn't
actually
exist. They're like, no.
and they would fork out like $280
For
for
a
one of those
cam.
fucking things if it existed to protect that 5'7" chimney. Where they were like, "Where's the next bolt?" You know, there's no way you're gonna fall out of there.
You're
like
fine.
you can't. Like it's literally impossible to fall out. No, I'm scared. There's people who had bought the big one, which is I think that was the funny part. It's like a zing pow, like left and right, 2-way punch. But anyway,
Yeah, I I think that was pretty funny, but
Yeah.
I just think in general, April Fool's jokes.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Don't do the
Especially from
don't do
brands.
monoliths, people. Don't
Especially
do,
from brands. It's just like, I don't know.
Somebody's gonna do a monolith.
Anytime it's tied to marketing or
Look.
like a new product release, I just like.
I also think that anytime Alex Honnold plays along with these dumb things, like the dumber it is, and yet Alex, I think that is comedy right there to me. Like
He
putting
definitely-
Alex Honnold in silly, dumb situations because of who he is and his whole mannerisms.
Yeah, no, it is funny.
To the fact that he's actually made like so many mockable, like the old Han Love interview, like that could have been made up, but it wasn't. It was
Right.
real.
Yeah.
He was taking that serious, the 25-pound baby, that whole thing. So you force him into these silly situations. I think it's comedy gold.
Yeah, no, Honnold's amazing in that regard,
Totally.
in being so exceptional as an athlete and so weird as a human, and the cross section and his
that's what
where his humor
They put the
comes
jumper
in.
cables on.
Yeah, like the Venn diagram of Alex Honnold and marketing and April Fool's jokes and humor is like
It's right. If
it's a
done
rare
correctly,
place. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not as funny when just like people are, playing it straight,
right?
But they're, like he is the classic straight man in a comedy bit.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Like because he literally is that guy.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's good
Like
stuff.
taken out of context, he's a square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Classic.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, so
He's a tricam.
a number 7 tricam, Alex Honnold. It's funny how much we talk about him, like, and just as this object.
Yeah, he's become a meme.
Maybe
he's not like a real human.
Yeah. Right. Maybe we should cancel that.
He's kind of a demigod.
He is a demigod.
Canceling. We'd like to cancel the word rig. That's this year's word
for Proj.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rig.
Well, I've also heard it used for harnesses.
Your rig.
Your rig. Fuck that.
I think it's worse though with a climb as a rig.
I agree.
Climb as a rig is worse, but harnesses is also bad.
For like just a climbing harness, not like one of those big harnesses.
Any harness is
that is
you think that's a rig?
Yeah.
Well, the big one is definitely your rig.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I just think you shouldn't use rig.
Just get rig out of the vocabulary
Yeah.
entirely. We are definitely putting a hit out on rig.
Yeah.
I think it's dying anyway. I think even within
It's kind of boomerish.
Well, more millennial, but I think it's really was abused in bouldering as sort of like a cool kind of maybe hip hoppy kind of thing. I mean, so much of that shit's like hip hop.
Hip hoppy. Hip hop.
Hippie.
A lot of
Hippity
things-
hop.
a
Don't
lot
you
of things
think?
like rhyme with rig, so they're just like rig.
Exactly.
Big.
Well, and it's
Big.
funny because I remember when we were joking about this and we talked about how, like, in so many threatened climbing areas, they literally are going to send a rig, as in a fucking oil rig.
Exactly.
Like,
because it wasn't funny.
yeah,
with
look,
Trump.
they sent. Here we are in Indian Creek. Check it out. They sent the rig.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
fucking pounding the ground and like shooting oil out of it.
Cracks are like splitting in the wall before your eyes.
Look, they sent the rig. There it is.
They fired it.
Yeah, exactly. The big burn off plume shoots out. Yep, just
exactly.
fired the rig.
Exactly.
So anyway, rig is out. Is there anything else you want to kibosh in that world? We've done it.
No, rig's a good one.
Yeah,
I mean
rig,
that
that's
should
enough.
that should die.
No
Yeah.
more rig. You've heard it here first.
Canceled.
Drones
Drones should be out.
out.
absolutely.
Personal drones.
Dude, so this summer I was in rifle, of course.
Yes.
And there was a kid who was like firing up his rig, which was a drone. And he was and I was like, I walked over to him, I was like, hey, what are you doing? And the obvious answer to that question when someone's like holding a controller pad in a parking lot, like trying to control a drone, is, oh, I'm
Piloting my drone.
my drone
Oh, the
to like go
launches
shoot
thing.
something.
Yeah.
His answer was, well, I'm about to like go do another burn on lungfish, and I've had 2 burns today already, and I'm like really close to sending it, and whatever. It was like the oddest answer. I didn't even like get to the question of like, why are you flying a drone and rifle right now? He just like talked about his like sick project that he's about to go send.
Mm-hmm.
so annoying. And so for that reason, drones are canceled.
Drones are canceled.
Did you hear the drone later while you were working your project? And it was just right in your ear?
I was fortunate enough to not be in the climbing in the vicinity, but
did you hear it up and down the canyon?
No, he was just like practicing his drone moves like in between burns on his project, and so it was just
His drone moves.
Wow.
Yeah, his drone moves.
That is bizarre.
It's just like, it's like drone dynos and his drone back steps and his drone back flags and drone heel hooks.
Checking the battery power.
Well, I'm not gonna say that like drones can exist, because obviously they make great climbing footage that used to cost a lot of money to make. Do you remember the Real Rock where they had they built the big rack that like moved the camera up and down the cliff?
Yep.
Yeah, that lasted for like 20 minutes before drones were invented. So that's in Josh.
That was some ingenuity.
Somewhere, that big rack thing. Anyway, but I'm not like against them entirely, but it's kind of like music at the cliff. Like, you can't just walk in and without, reading the room and consulting people and wondering if you're fucking up everybody's climbing experience, just like rock your drone up into the air. Your little whiny little fucking drone.
I think you should just like assume that no one likes them.
Assume that no one wants
that should be the baseline assumption.
If it's a day of filming or, it's just you and your buddies there, it's like the same as music. Like, if it's just you and your pals there, then put your fucking, put Legend on by Bob Marley. Like, jam it out. It's great. But as soon as someone shows up, either ask that person or shut that shit down, because it's like you're imposing on other people. And that's really the drone problem, is that it's the personal drones. Like, I have no problem when there's a film shoot and somebody wants to use a fucking drone. But again, like, I even remember...
I do.
You do?
Yeah, drones
entirely.
Want to know why? Because the drones are becoming what, like, the fisheye lens was, like, back in the 90s. Like, it was, like, this overused thing, and everyone was shooting fisheye, and it's like, oh, great, another fisheye lens. It just got overdone, and nobody was it wasn't aesthetically interesting.
Yeah, but it can be done well.
Good skate videos.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it can be done well.
I think Andre's drone guy is...
Yes.
Probably pro.
Yeah. Of course it can be done well.
Drone guy was pro.
I'm just saying, like, it's a little overused.
Right.
And not, like, if you're like the no-name climber who's like trying to get a shoe sponsorship and your buddy's flying a drone with a GoPro to like show you doing your moves on whatever the fuck 14B you're working on, like, just fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just get the fuck out of here.
I definitely dream of having a 12 gauge.
Yeah.
When I see
like those people in northern Colorado.
What's that?
There was that like drone swarm way out in the boonies of northwest Colorado.
Really?
And these townsfolk came out and just lit them up.
What were the drone swarm doing?
No one knows. There's no one knows. Check it out. It's a real story. The Army base up there denied. I think it was an Air Force base, and they said, nope, it wasn't us. And
just
they're
plugging them.
Yep, just blew them away.
They're spreading COVID, I think.
I mean, that's how it started. Yeah. But yeah, for sure. They just lit them up.
That's what I dream
sick.
of that, man.
Yeah.
Because they fly around my neighborhood once in a while. I know who it is. And I don't know, is there a legality to, I mean, obviously you're not supposed to discharge
our neighbor
weapons,
crashed his drone into our yard and had to like come and like apologize and like, ask and like walk on our property or whatever
to go get their damn
drone. Go get their damn drone.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a weird thing right now.
All right,
Yeah.
drones, man.
Yeah,
I mean, but then I just interviewed Jason Nelson, and he actually gave me this awesome story because he's got an actual professional drone because he does filming and he also does inspections and things with it. Of like structures and stuff, which is another thing. And he actually
industrial application.
Yeah, he was telling me how he goes out. He lives in Uray, and he goes out and he's like, I'm not gonna hike into that ice climb. He fucking goes out on his porch and just flies his drone up to look at
it out
to see if A, anybody's on it, or B, it's like in or not. Wow. And I had to give a little tip of the hat to that.
I hope it was a little one.
Yeah, I don't think so. I doubt. I think he's got the helmet and shit, or like the goggles. So, anyway, careful with your fucking drone. It's becoming like the Bluetooth speaker of the new age. It's a real. I mean, at least the new Bluetooth speaker plays some music that you might like.
Right.
Like the sound of a drone is awful.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
Like
Yeah.
a giant mosquito.
Yeah,
No one likes it.
No one's up there just like, oh, that's really helping me climb right now. This thing that may bump into my head.
Exactly.
I thought about that with the frickin'
Just
I
whip
know they
into
were
it.
supposedly not allowed to use drones, quote unquote, in Yosemite. The official take is that no drones were used.
They didn't use them.
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't.
I know. I heard the whole story about the helicopter above.
We can't talk about
the
that.
ceiling. I know we're not supposed to talk about that, but I think that was a cover story for drone use. Nevertheless, can you imagine?
That's an interesting theory.
You don't think that?
I hadn't thought that.
All right. Well, anyway, Jimmy Chin's never agreed to come on the Enormocast, so
Okay, well, we can strike all
and I
of
think
this.
that's why, because he knows he'll get withering questions about his drone use. Chin, you hear me?
We're on to you, bud.
Yeah, but I mean, can you imagine like one of those things accidentally bumping in Alex Honnold while he's fucking free soloing the I'm out of control. It's like,
That'd be insane.
little fucking little propellers like whacking his forehead.
I mean, that's a good April Fool's joke.
Yeah. You listen to Black Diamond? All right, last canceling.
Okay,
Again
we'll make
from-
this quick
from
because we're
Mr.
Mr.
Dark Humor over here. Andrew Bisharat wants to cancel.
I want to cancel celebrity climbers who have Instagram accounts for their pets. That is so obnoxious because already they are like, I can do whatever I want because
Right.
I've got 400 million people following me.
Right.
And the idea that you're going to degrade us all and make us follow your dog's like day-to-day life, it's just humiliating. It's humiliating. Don't endure people to this humiliation. It's just nobody cares about your pet.
We were the counterculture, goddammit.
We used to be.
You're right.
Yeah, we used to be cool.
Now-
Whatever, like
that's
anarchy, burn the fucking system down.
That's
and now
right.
we're just following
You're just
pet accounts.
riding the algorithm wave to get foo-foo. 10 million likes. It's outstanding.
Damn, you're right, Dilk. You're fucking right.
Well,
It's like it's all just like garbage.
yeah.
Oh man, because that's what drew me to it. It's like, no, we're cool. We're on the fringes.
We're separate. Yeah.
So I say in 2021,
What about
if you're
Gus Gus?
if you're following,
Gus, Cedar's little dog, and that little the other
He
one that's
died.
all snaggletooth. Is Gus gone?
he died.
This
He
year?
just died.
Yeah, but the
Rest in
snaggletooth
peace.
one's still around.
yeah,
right?
Bernie's still here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not an okay pet account.
I don't know if Cedar has a pet account, does he?
Yeah, they had pet account for sure. Gus did.
Well, I don't
All-trained
follow.
pug.
I don't follow pet accounts, so I don't
All-trained
know
pug.
because I'm not.
There you go.
I respect myself. But I just want to say, if you're following a pet account of a pro climber, then you should unfollow that account
Okay.
because don't
Done.
degrade yourself to
Done.
Right.
to that kind of like withering humiliation.
I just lost all my sponsors. Sportiva's like, we sponsor 6 different pet accounts. You son of a bitch. It's like, I don't even climb, man. I got my pet on the Sportiva team. Well, our friend Brittany Griffith's like 2 steps away from starting a pet account.
I gotta say,
Kitty or whatever
yeah,
the hell.
Kitty.
Yeah.
Is an amazing. I enjoy watching her Instagram stories where she's hiking to the crag with her
Right.
kitty.
Which must take forever.
But if she which must take forever.
Yeah.
If she starts a kitty account,
She's dead.
unfriended.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brittany.
Sorry, Brittany.
There it is.
Because it would just be so not Brittany.
Yeah, no, she wouldn't do that.
It would be like betraying her whole image. So don't do it, Brittany.
Yeah.
But the pet account thing. I don't know. I think if you're gonna do a pet account, your pet better be like not just some average fucking dog. It's got to be rad.
Yeah, no, at least bring an interesting pet.
It's got to
like a
like
tarantula.
missing a limb. Yeah. Maybe he's one of those cute cats with one of the eyes that are like sewed shut because they got in like an alley fight. Yeah.
Yep.
Or if you had a monkey that put draws up on your project.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Or flies your drone for you.
I would sponsor that monkey.
I think that's a throw. I think that's a shout out to a previous Taps.
Yeah.
Haven't we talked about the draw hanging monkey before?
Well, there's worlds are colliding right now because we've talked about the draw hanging monkey. We've also talked about canceling pets at Craig's. Now we're one step removed.
Exactly.
We're talking about canceling
We're anti-pet.
pets, Crag pets on Instagram. Yeah. So this is like, it's just a
Get a draw-hanging
continuation.
monkey and we're on board.
Yeah, but if you have a draw hanging
1,000%.
monkey, obviously that monkey should be sponsored and have lots of followers on
By
Instagram.
DMM. So it only exclusively hangs DMM draws. That's an idea right there for you guys over there in Britain. Do they have monkeys in Wales? Oh, man. All right. Well, let's finish up with a quick rundown, an honorable mention to a Reddit member named Obsidian. Obsidian, are you listening, my friend?
Shout out.
Shout out to you. We found your Taps edition on the Reddit, and we enjoyed a few of them. What were some of the ones that he was going to cancel or things that he wanted to talk about? He was on more of the cancel vibe.
Yeah, he posted a post. I don't know who this person is, but he was just like, I love the Taps episode, and here's some ideas for what I would like. Let's do a Reddit Taps. His ideas I thought were all brilliant. Or her. I don't know if Obsidian.
Oh, true.
Girl.
Sure.
I think Reddit's a pretty safe. I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of dudes on
A
Reddit.
lot of dudes on the climbing Reddit, I think.
The quad anchor.
The quad anchor
was one, and
I think. Well, I want to talk about the quad anchor for a second.
Okay.
Because it's such an interesting thing that I have literally in my climbing life never seen in the wild. I've only seen it literally on Instagrams.
Whoa.
It usually guides Instagrams.
Just like the proverbial monkey hanging monkey.
Yeah. It's a mythical thing that I wish. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know, and I think that I don't know. It's just it's
who uses the quad?
Who uses the quad on a regular basis besides a guide?
I don't
even know how to make one.
I think you just tie like 4 knots. Into
But why would you tie 4 knots when you can tie 1?
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't understand the point of it. It seems needlessly complicated,
doubly redundant.
It's like
doubly safe.
Right.
Any 2 parts can break and it still holds.
Yeah. It's like if we started putting 6 wheels on cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay,
it's a safety
4
first.
wheels
We
work
get it.
pretty good, but 6 must be better.
Right.
So let's put 2 more on
Exactly.
there.
I can hold 2 tanks on this anchor.
Like, what is this?
Not one.
The extra wheels for? We don't know.
Who knows?
It's just better.
Exactly.
It's so funny. Like, there's like this whole culture of climbing anchor, and like just like the geeky side of climbing that has really gone into like a new gear in the last 5 years with the internet, and or not just with the internet, but like in general, it's like there's like this. It's like this is the new way to do things, and like I'm gonna get clicks on my gear building website, whatever. I don't know. It's like a weird thing. Well, like, all the old shit like works just fine.
Well, the funny thing is that I just realized this while you're talking is that the less you need these anchors in the world, because more and more places have just fucking, you remember when you had to inconveniently build your own anchor? Well, we've fixed that. We put a bolted anchor
There's
here.
2 monoliths right at the anchor. You can just
tie off the 2 mini monoliths. The truth is that less and less places have the need to build, your own gear anchors. Simultaneously, these like crazy, bizarre ways to build gear anchors are on the upswing. So what does that say? It's weird, right?
But they're all like dialed into it too. They're like super dialed into the complicated way of doing it, but they also have no skill set to apply it.
And that's funny because as an experienced climbers, people ask me, "What do you think of this thing?"
Right.
And I'm always just like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Because no one I know uses whatever you're talking about.
Right.
Ever. All these people you admire don't use it.
Nope.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like the rise of the engineer. They're just like, there's newfangled ways
I think it's
to
always
do it.
been like that, though.
Yeah.
It's way worse now.
Yeah. Well,
that's an interesting
it's getting more
observation.
refined. I mean, it's like getting more refined, but it's also getting more complicated too. Like it's not getting more simple. Like the simplicity of
Isn't that the problem?
I think it is a problem.
It is the problem.
I would too.
If it's way fucking more complicated, then, you know, if you're wasting time, there's multiple ways in which you can jack it up, then it's, you know, there's like a place where it crosses into the more unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Climbing is dangerous. You do it at your own risk. Okay. I've never actually hardly ever said that on the Enormocast. I probably should open each show with that. Hey, if you fuck up, it's not my problem. It's not my fault.
It's Dilk's fault.
It's Dilk's fault.
It's flat Dilk's fault.
Another thing that Obsidian, I think, piggybacks on some stuff I've talked about is he was talking about this I'm straight in signal that people give at the anchors when they're on top of a climb. They're going to tie through the anchor and come down to get rid of that signal. And I will second that. And I will second a lot of signals in climbing.
Wait, just explain exactly what he's...
So you climb up, you get to the top of the route, and you're going to tie through the anchors. So you have to clip into the anchors, untie, put the rope through. There's no beaners to clip through. You get on the anchor and you yell down to your person, I'm straight in.
Why are you doing that?
There is no reason to do that because the belayer is to do nothing at that point.
Yeah.
And there's been so many accidents in climbing where the belayer thinks that means you're going to rappel. Mm-hmm. And so the belayer says, okay, that means I'm good. So
it just means you're off belay.
Yeah, you're off belay.
Right. Yeah.
I can take my hands off. I can undo it. I can walk away. I can go have a sandwich. Obviously, the most famous Enormocast episode of all time is Craig DiMartino's, number 11. This is exactly what happened to him. Okay, he gave the signal as if he was off belay when he meant to be lowered, and he got dropped. So it's just a dumb signal that gets you nothing because your belayer is just going to stand there and keep you on belay. So there's no reason to tell him that.
When you get to an anchor, you should be silent and focused like a Werner Herzog movie.
Just listen to the brooding gloom.
Yes. Do not convey joy.
The angry shouts of the birds and the insects. There's only decay at the anchor. The world is chaos at this point. No, but it just is a signal that's unnecessary because you clip in and then maybe you call for slack, which is a whole nother signal, but that's it. Like,
you don't even need to call for slack. You just need to pull.
You need
take
to pull
slack.
because your belayer, if the rope...
I wouldn't even call for slack.
I don't call for slack.
Yeah.
Just fucking do your thing until it's time to lower.
Just pull that goddamn rope up as much as you need.
Because when you pull it to clip, they should give you rope. So
the only time you need to say anything is if you're off belay and you're going to pull up the rest of the rope to put your partner on belay.
Right. That's it. But if you're just
cleaning an anchor, don't say anything.
If you're going to be lowered, shut your mouth. Shut your damn mouth. Until you say take.
Just remember Werner.
And then when you do say take, and this is the thing that confuses me about people who get dropped in that situation, is when you say take, like wait to unclip until you feel the rope come tight on your harness.
Yeah.
Like this whole thing of, and sorry, Craig, but this whole thing that you just like, whoop, unclipped while the rope was still kind of like loose in front of you. Like, how did you not feel that feeling where someone takes your damn rope out?
Yeah.
Like, wait for it. You're not in a hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah, just chill, baby. It's climbing slow.
So many accidents can be prevented just with this advice alone.
Yeah.
It's just some of the most common ways that people fuck
pay
themselves
attention.
up.
Yeah. So, Obsidian, you're on my team. Yeah. Get rid of that stupid signal. Obsidian also had the advice, if you're asking for beta on how to rope solo on the internet, then you shouldn't be rope soloing.
How else are you going to learn how to rope solo, though?
I don't know, man, but like rope soloing is a dangerous prospect and it's tricky. So get some, either like you figure, you actually, honestly, like if you've climbed long enough and you just think about the system, you can figure it out. Yeah. It all makes sense. But if you're at the position where you have no idea how it's done and you want to get that beta off of random people on Reddit or wherever, then don't do it.
Yeah, I feel like that actually loops back into the quad discussion a little bit, where folks will give these like crazy explanations with like crazy amounts of gear.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm going to back out myself out of this room right now and go away.
Go back to my cordelette or my 2 draws on the 2 bolts.
Yeah.
So how do you rope solo?
Well, let me tell you. And then Obsidian also wanted to cancel home gym photos.
Hangboard Instagrams.
Hangboard Instagrams, home gym photos.
Yeah.
Shit's played, y'all.
Yeah.
It's so played.
So played.
I'm there.
Unless your gym is truly sick, like Andy or like Randy.
Then you're
Levitt.
just showing off.
I know, but that's what the Instagram's for.
Yeah.
It's just showing off.
Is it though? I guess it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I don't need to see anyone hangboarding on Instagram ever again.
Nope. It's not interesting.
Yeah.
No.
It's
like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
And I actually don't care what
Unless there's some
what
sexy
your
stuff
message
involved.
is that is related to that or not related to that. Whatever it is that you're posting that is like a message.
Well, wait a
it.
second. What is your message?
Well, people it's weird. Like people use they don't have any other content to share, so they show a photo.
But I mean, honestly, like, what are you saying? Like, what do you think? Like, because let's say this. I know Dilk has never posted one. Have you ever posted one?
A hangboarding photo?
Yeah.
Of myself? No.
Yes, I have.
Oh.
Man
I'm the
whore.
Yep, exactly, totally.
Hey.
How do you feel about that now, Chris?
What was the context?
The context was I wanted to show that I was, and this is actually a total flex and a show-offy moment, but that I was actually, in my home hangboard sessions, I don't own any weights or kettlebells or anything like that, so I use old brake rotors, a pair from your a pair from your fiance's Subaru,
right?
Yep, and a pair from our Lexus. The Subaru ones are actually heavier.
Okay,
oddly, yeah, so they're like 12.4 pounds, and the Lexus
with all that
ones
rust, it's probably
exactly,
probably a little heavier.
10.4 pounds. So yeah, I was kind of like, it was sort of a manly, like, you don't need rad shit to fucking hangboard kind of flex. So, and my point being is that that's all your hangboard videos are.
Yeah.
Are this flex of like, look at me, I'm like more dedicated than you are, I'm stronger than you are. Even if it's like, oh hey, I've come up with this great new hangboard video that's gonna help you because I've come up with this thing. It's like, it's still like, I came up with it because I'm not lazy and you are, and you should become like me.
Okay, you've just identified 2 categories of what this like post is. There's like the on the nose, I'm the guru who's going to help you with this amazing routine that's going to change your life. And then there's your post, which is like I'm basically just going to own the fact that I feel like I'm better than you guys. And this is all about stoking my ego or whatever. And then there's like this other third weird category that is, I'm going to show myself doing something really strong, but I'm going to frame it in this like humble way. It's like the humble brag.
It's
post.
a full humble brag.
Yeah. And so,
like, Christmas, man, I ate a whole bunch of food. So now I'm doing my hangboards because, I was weak. Because I'm just like you guys. We're all relating here.
Here's me hanging off a hanging a 4mm edge on one arm.
Right.
With 2 Subaru brake rotors between my legs.
Still got it.
Hashtag the new 40.
Exactly.
Yeah. But isn't that the entire breadth of Instagram?
It's so annoying. I hate it. Cancel Instagram.
Cancel Instagram.
But what is best in life? The open steppe, fleet horse, falcons at your wrist, and the wind in your hair. Wrong! Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good. That is good.
She's told me that's